you can really get that bait to hover in front of those fish, sit there and kind of tantalize them into biting. Certainly something you should absolutely have tied on, but tying those treble hooks on with braided line, using that as your split ring, you're going to land nearly all of them at that point in time. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and this is our second of the Pick 2 More series, adding to our Pick 4 that we have done the last little bit, and seem to be pretty popular, and we certainly appreciate you all watching and engaging with these videos. And I love getting those comments that say, man, I took these techniques out to the lake and caught some fish with them. That's why we do this. We want you all to be better anglers. So that's certainly our goal with this. Being February and looking back at the 4 baits that we had from last year, from a crankbait, kind of what's your next options. I'm gonna go through a couple more. The next one is definitely another shallow water option, and then after that, it kind of gets a little bit more versatile from there. A couple that I felt like would really complement that for this month, and it's funny looking through this too. One thing that I just kind of want to hit on. I realized that, some of the baits I use in December or baits I'll use in January may bleed over into February, and there's definitely windows of time. And the other part of that, I try to fish pretty simple. I don't use just a crazy vast amount of techniques throughout the course of the year. I try to keep it pretty simple and be very efficient with, a handful or, maybe a dozen really good techniques, and don't really try to chase a lot of other crazy stuff around. So kind of thinking on that, and February, cool water, sometimes clear water, sometimes off colored, but a bait that definitely works really, really well this time of year is a suspending jerk bait. A suspending jerk bait worked incredibly well before forward facing sonar. You pair it with forward facing sonar this time of year, and it can be extremely deadly and be able to catch fish in places where we never really could before. And that's something that a jerk bait, when paired up again with that forward facing sonar, is really, really efficient this time of year. You're able to catch fish that we knew were out there suspending out in open water. We knew that they were there, but you never really could target them. Now you can, and a suspended jerkbait is a great way to do that. Reason for that, pretty simple. The fact that it does suspend, or you can weight it and get it to sink a little bit, you can really get that bait to hover in front of those fish and really just sit there and kind of tantalize them into biting is a great way to do that, this month. So that's certainly something you should absolutely have tied on. A few of my favorites, this particular one is a Rapala Shadow Rap Shad. Rapala Shadow Rap Shad is what that is. It's the number 9. That's the deep version. It'll run about 6 feet or so, on just a standard cast and not letting it sink too long. If you put bigger hooks on it or something to get it to sink. But that Shadow Rap Shad, and that's one of my favorite colors, especially when there is some color in the water. That color is called Bud, which I'm a fan of for a lot of reasons. But it's a great color, but it's also my dad's name, so it wasn't named after him. But it just kind of worked out that way. But that is a great color in that Shadow Rap series of jerk baits. Another one that has always been an effective wintertime bait, and I would still consider February to be wintertime across most of the country. Anything from like central Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, anywhere from there north. Man, it's still wintertime pretty much. But that would be a blade bait. And there's a lot of different versions out there. I've got a box full of all different kinds of them here. The old-fashioned Silver Buddy is probably my favorite. That's not what this one is. I truly don't even know what this one is. It was just the first one I could get out of the box that wasn't tangled up really bad. But the half-ounce Silver Buddy is my standard. That's my go-to most of the time. And, just a really good blade bait. And again, this was a very effective bait in the winter anyway, but once you pair it up with forward-facing sonar, you're able to get out into those places where a lot of these fish we've found they end up wintering down in some of these ditches and drains and those type of places where, you'd occasionally catch a fish here and there, but those fish, they follow that bait around. So there's times when they're not moving quickly, but they are kind of always moving, a lot more than what we gave them credit for. But that bait is very effective with forward-facing sonar because it shows up well, but it also sinks very quickly, gets down to those fish very quickly, and then it does have that image of looking like a dying bait fish, kind of kind of jigging that along the bottom and stuff. So blade bait, a very, very simple thing. Just a hunk of metal with some lead molded on the front of it, a couple treble hooks attached on the bottom, and a very simple but yet very effective bait in the month of February. One small tip, and I have done a video on this. You can go back and find that on tying a braided line split ring. A blade bait is the time when you absolutely positively should use a braided line split ring on that. Tying that treble hook on with that braid is going to allow for a lot more movement with that treble hook, and that's going to help you land more fish. This is a terrible bait for fish having a lot of leverage with. They come up and jump and shake their head or just sloshing around, and it's something that you will lose fish on. But tying those treble hooks on with braided line, using that as your split ring, you're going to land nearly all of them at that point in time. You truly do land more of your fish because that can spin. There's like 3.5 or 4 revolutions, where with a standard split ring you get not even a full one. That causes that fish to just create that much more torque in its mouth to tear those holes in its mouth more and give that fish a much better chance of tearing that bait loose and jumping and throwing it. So, and it's something you generally don't lose a lot of. You know, you can use the auto retriever, get right over on top of it if you're hung in some rocks or wood, and you're going to get that dude back. So, a very, very good tip on that is using those braided line split rings. But those two, you know, adding with the ones from last year, I feel like really kind of help. Sliding off the page here. He don't want to participate anymore. But those two going along with the ones from last year are a couple that you definitely should add in your arsenal and get out there and follow that bait around. Forward-facing sonar is a big deal this time of the year when those fish are in kind of funky places. If you get a really good, you know, cloudy, windy, overcast kind of day, or a sunny day, but you get some good wind, a lot of times that puts those fish on the bank a little bit more. But if it's a sunny, still, you know, not much moving kind of day, that's the kind of day that you probably need to crank that forward-facing sonar up, get out there and start looking for them. So hope this helps you out there on the water. Send me a picture of a big one.